Festus Osifo joins us next. He is the president of Trade Union Congress and Petroleum and Natural Gas, Pengerson for short. So that's why they made it that short. So we don't keep twisting our tongue. Good morning. Thank you for coming out here today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah, so that meeting has held, and we're waiting. So where are we now?
Yes, we had the follow-up meeting on Monday this week with the government team, and when we got to that meeting, so they told us that they have some terms of reference for us, and also that they are having the committees, because the committees we're actually looking at were to have committees in each of the sub-areas, but they came with 5 broad committees, and that with those 5 committees, that others can subsume into that technical committees. So we're expected to make nominations into the committees so that they will now sit down and start working through the fine lines. And we're looking at committees on CNG, committees on the mass transit, committees on the reduction of cost of governance, then committee on to review the cash transfer. Then, I mean, those were the broad-based committees that we're looking at, and even committees on electricity, housing, and the road infrastructure. So these were the 5 broad-based committees that the government brought forth, that this is actually their thought, but we said that they've worked on this for the last 2 weeks without our input, that, okay, it is also good for us to take it back and do some reviews and make some further inputs, so which we have also done. So the technical committees will now go into full swing, maybe effective Monday next week.
Okay, so has the Labour gotten across to them saying, look, this is our position, this is what we think, or has it happened yet?
Yes, that is what we've been doing in the past few days. So we've been able to put our own thoughts together as to making input into what they have submitted to us. So we've done that. We did that yesterday, but the discussion will also continue today, because again, the things we also put forward on their part, they will also say, no, I think this one, that one we will not accept. So, but the to and fro is going on behind the scene in such a way that by Monday, the technical committee will go into work.
So are you still working on that timeline of 8 weeks?
Yes. For us, we insisted that anything we are doing, we must conclude maximum in 8 weeks. But that 8 weeks is for the overall. For example, if we set up a committee on CNG, so the committee on CNG might come back to us in 2 weeks, because the technology of CNG, it's actually out there, so it's not something that's a bit difficult. And most of the people, both in the public and private sectors, who want to invest in this CNG, they are already there, they know them. So they may come back to the steering committee in 2 weeks and submit their report. Once they submit, we will not wait for that 8 weeks to implement. Once they submit, we will start implementation. I mean, we'll push government to start implementation of that immediately.
But government can tell you that, look, even if you, quote unquote, seem to have agreed on some things within that 8-week window, there are certain things that will have to go to National Assembly, they may say, and then they'll tell you, look, it's up to them now to decide, and it's no longer up to us. How do you anticipate that kind of scenario?
Yes, you know, that is why some of the things are broken down into short term, medium term, and long term. Like, there are some things that they will be able to do today, and those things that they will be able to do immediately, we get them to do it. Like things about, you know, when we talked about that CNG, you know, maybe somewhere around the program, we could talk a little bit on CNG, because a lot of people, the last time I was here, when I left here, immediately I left, my phone was, people were asking, this CNG, what is it really about? We don't know much about it. Maybe I will put on my mechanical and petroleum engineering cap a little while to talk a little bit on it. But coming back to this, something about CNG may not necessarily need to go to National Assembly. Something about maybe tax holiday for those that are earning minimum wage or slightly above minimum wage may need to go to National Assembly, because you need to amend the Tax Act and some of the finance bills and all that. So that may go to National Assembly. But again, we believe that as a government, and as this government is here as well, we believe that both the National Assembly and the executive, they should work in sync to resolve this. We have seen bills that were passed under 1 week, under 2 weeks. So this is a national emergency, and I believe all hands will be on deck to get them resolved.
Okay, so you wanted to speak a bit about the CNG, perhaps that
yes.
will be a good time.
Yes. You know, we'll be talking about CNG. CNG actually is a compressed natural gas.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you take natural gas, normally comes in two formats. It comes majorly as CNG and as LNG, so as a liquefied natural gas. But one of the huge advantage of CNG, or rather, you know, when you take gas, you compress gas to around less than 1% of its original volume at a standard pressure. So when you do that, the volume will now be reduced. So you can now put that gas in a cylinder. Then when you put that gas in a cylinder, it can be used as a substitute. You know, we have been talking about alternate to fuel. When, you know, basic economics talks about two items as close substitutes. So the CNG could be a substitute to petrol. So now, at the end of the day, this CNG is relatively much more cheaper compared to petrol. It's about 60% cheaper compared to the price of petrol. So again, it also now depends, the final price will also depend on the exchange rate. And also, CNG does not, I mean, if you want to convert your cars, it's relatively easy to do. Today, you could have that CNG in a cylinder. So that cylinder could be placed at the back of your vehicle and you have a conversion kit. So you could switch between petrol and CNG. In a lot of countries today, for example, like Iran today, they have over 3 million of their vehicles using CNG. There is the same thing with Pakistan. So I'm using Pakistan advisedly because, the situations in Pakistan is a bit closer to what we have here because they are not that developed country at all. And one of the huge advantage of CNG, like petrol today, if you have petrol leaks, you could have fire incidents. But one of the advantage of CNG is that if you have CNG in your car, let's assume there is a leak, CNG has a specific gravity, or rather, is lighter than air. So because it's lighter than air, it diffuses up. So the issue of fire relatively is not there.
Okay, so just a few things, pardon me to jump in. Now, for this CNG, do we have the outlets that people can go in and have the CNG? Because yes, it's lighter, and you will also talk about the challenge that they may face in terms of fuel suppliers who may think, wait a minute, if these people go with the CNG, we might be, we will take a hit because people, if they see the benefit of CNG, not many people will go for fuel immediately. So how is that going to work out before we come to the LPG challenge of this?
Okay, so clearly, in the area of that CNG, in Pengassan, we have been interrelating with some of the players in the field. One of the reasons they have not actually deployed these facilities and equipment into the field before now is actually because of subsidy. Because what they have said was that if PMS was selling as at that time at about 165 naira, that if they bring CNG into the market, that they will not have a market for it because PMS was being subsidized. But today, I can tell you that there are a lot of companies that they already have the technology, they are ready to deploy immediately. Because we have interacted with them in the last 1 or 2 years. They are ready to deploy. And the technology is relatively easy. It is not difficult. The cost of setting up a CNG plant is not just like, it's more or less equivalent to your LPG. So it's not as expensive or sophisticated when you compare to the normal petrol stations that you need a lot of outlets, so it's not as complicated as that. In fact, it is relatively easy, and at times too, it's just for you as well to pick up some of your cylinders. So it's easier compared to the petroleum product. And again, I understand that in Nigeria, those that are currently having fuel stations, they may want to sabotage as well. But that is why government exists. And that is why everybody must push. In fact, they can even install CNG plants. So if they have CNG plants, they may not also want to sabotage as well because they will also make money from it at the end of the day.
Indeed, because we saw some time ago that the NNPC had tried this CNG thing where they were going to, there was supposed to be an incentive for Nigerians to convert, to try CNG. But a lot of people were very skeptical, and it would seem that they didn't push further after the initial, the initial media bleeds about what it was supposed to be about. Some people did convert, but then for those people, I wonder how did they? How were they getting their refill? Were they guaranteed refills if they had to travel with such a vehicle, for instance, there are not too many stations that I know of that they could easily refill their tank.
Yes, that was the accusation that Labour put forward. If you remember, we have been having conversations with them from 2020 to 2021 on this CNG. But at the end of the day, they are aborted. So when we even asked NNPC, there was some level of squabbles between who will implement NNPC, CBN, and all that. So that was why, as at then, I could tell you that the investment from NNPC was not really massive. Because again, government, they were not serious on these discussions as at then. Because for us, we were telling them that before you remove fuel subsidy, that the best thing to do is to deploy the CNG. But again, too, a lot of investors that wanted to put their money into the CNG, they were also skeptical that they may invest in this process. At the end of the day, the subsidy may remain. So if the subsidy remains and PMS is selling less than the liter of CNG, that they will not have customers. So that was what happened. Then in terms of the conversion, yes, government as at then said they were going to convert some vehicles as at that time. But this has more be work that the committee must do. Because in China today, a lot of the buses in China today that commute passengers from one point to another runs on CNG. In fact, in the world, they have the highest number of buses that run on CNG. So this model can be replicated. Why we are a bit optimistic that this substitute or this alternative will work? Because it has worked in countries with similar conditions like Nigeria. So in that technical committee, we are going to have experts from Labour as well. Government will bring theirs, who will bring ours, that will now sit down and design a process. And we don't expect the CNG committee to even last more than 4 weeks before we start pushing through.
Are you saying that Dangote spent all those trillions to build these refineries? If CNG comes, who's going to buy this petrol? What happens?
Yes. First, we are not expecting everybody to convert their cars to CNG. That's the reality. Even where CNG operates today, in Iran, in Pakistan and all that, Kuwait and Qatar and all that, you know, it's just maybe about 30–40% of the cars that are converted. And again, one of the interesting things is also that you can be driving. You can switch from your CNG to the PMS. So you can inter-switch. Because today in Nigeria today, if you look at the Dangote refinery that you said that is coming, or as a matter of fact, it's coming on stream in the next 1 or 2 months, it will start production from what they have told us. But again, that Dangote refinery is not just meant for Nigeria alone 100%. We have almost the entire West African suburb. So study has shown that in most parts of the world, people that use CNG are most especially the downtrodden. Those below the middle class. But those in the upper class and in the middle class, most of them can afford petrol. So they still stick with the petrol.
I tell you, when CNG kicks in, because we've done some reports on this, and it is hugely beneficial. It will even give a challenge to LPG, cooking gas, because people will prefer that because it's cheaper, it's economical, it doesn't, it's not as hazardous as LPG.
Absolutely.
So they will go for that when they see the benefit. So all classes who will go for it without blinking. But in that committee, looking at all of the reports, everything in front of you, which one do you think that they may perhaps begin to implement real quick, if you could call it lowest hanging fruit?
And yes, so we are looking at issues about tax holiday for some categories of workers, both in the private and the public sector. If, for example...
Is it companies or just the workers?
No, the workers. The workers.
What about the companies? They're challenged too.
Yes, no, but that's correct as well, because those companies, they are also Nigerians as well. The ones that can be done immediately, it's a tax holiday for this category of workforce. Then they could also do the cost of living adjustment allowance as well. Then they could also, the issue of minimum wage. So we're talking about, will it be the issue of minimum wage or also the issue relating to wage award? So those are some of the things that we are discussing now. Will government just on its own to say we are giving you wage award, so that next year we will sit down when we're supposed to discuss the minimum wage, we would have that minimum wage conversation. So that is is also what government can do almost immediately. Then again, if you also look at this issue of deployment of CNG, we believe that this is something that can be done because we know from the Pengassan end, from the industry end, that there are people that are willing to jump into this almost immediately. So this can be deployed almost immediately. But one of the caveats there that we will also push government in that committee is that some of the downtrodden Nigerians that are struggling to live and survive, they may not have the money to be able to buy the conversion kit for that CNG as of today, because it may cost you, depending on the Naira exchange rate, between 250 to 500,000 Naira to convert your vehicle. So the question is, those bus drivers, those taxi drivers, where will they get such amount of money from in order to do that conversion? So these are some of the things that we'll be having the conversations around when we meet in that technical committee.
All right, when we return, there'll be more questions, including how do we ensure, because you say the cost will be dependent upon foreign exchange.
Yeah.
We've seen the challenge with petrol or diesel. How do we ensure that we don't face the same vagaries with CNG at the end of the day? So that and more, my colleagues will take up when we return. Stay on with us.
Thank you for joining us, or for remaining with us. Mr. Sifo, you know, one of the questions that comes to mind, first of all, tell us, where is the Labour and the federal government on the proposition of Labour concerning the minimum wage?
Yes, so the conversation around that, we are currently on it because we have made a proposition to a proposal to them, saying that the minimum wage should be about 200,000 naira. But that is our demand. But they have not come back with a counter offer. But there's a conversation. You know, the minimum wage negotiation is supposed to start next year by law. So now, should we wait till next year? But for now, on the immediate, the government will go ahead and declare wage award. Like, for example, you could hear what was done in Edo State when the Edo State government came out and said the minimum wage is now 40,000 naira. So the conversation is around the fact that if we should start today to start discussing the minimum wage, or the government across board would declare a wage award. So we are having that conversation right now. So probably in the next 1 week, it will be much more clearer on the direction that both parties will agree to go. But we clearly agree from both sides that something must be done to minimum wage. But what will be the format? Will it be wage award, or will it be the proper negotiations? If it's the proper negotiations, you know, statutorily, according to law, there are parties that are going to be doing that negotiation, both from the labor, both from the employer consultative association, from government. So it's a tripartite discussion. So, but the format that we are going to take will be much more clearer next week.
Well, just to be clear, for those who are wondering what's the difference between wage award and wage increase.
Okay, so wage award, like what Edo State government, not wage increase, no. Wage award is a wage increase. Minimum wage negotiation that will increase is also a wage increase. But there's a difference between negotiation of minimum wage and also wage award. The wage award is a bonus given by government. So President Bola Tinubu could come out today and declare that, okay, moving forward, all federal workers are going to earn a minimum of 80,000 naira with consequential adjustment. So that is a wage award. But when we will now sit down with them and have a full-term negotiation, it could last for a month, it could last for 2 months, then it will now become a law. So that is a minimum wage discussion, but both of them leads to increment in salary.
You know, there's a little concern that a number of people might have, and let me believe that you have that as well. On the one hand, the federal government has been saying this money does not exist. It's the reason that the subsidy was removed in the first place. Government is essentially broke. And DMO is advising, please don't take any more loans. Date back to 2016 when Mrs. Kemi Adeosun was finance minister. She said at the time that the wage bill of 165 billion naira per month was unsustainable. That was in 2016. Salaries weren't up to 30, I don't think it was up to 30,000 naira minimum wage at the time. And that's an annual that was an annual 1.98 trillion naira in 2016. If we cascade that, that's quite some chunk now. And at that time, according to the minister at the time, that was 40% of government spending. So one wonders, with these propositions and all of the conversations going on now, do you think really, I mean, you also run an organization, how sustainable do you think a wage increase, wage award, whatever it is that we look at it, is going to be for the federal government or any state government at that, in the light of prevailing economic circumstances, even for that same government?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. What we have said is this, that we strongly believe that government can take care of those that create wealth, that government can take care of the people that toil day and night to ensure that the country is still a going concern. We understand very well the challenges that the government is facing today. We understand that this year, the revenue that the government is expecting, I mean, you know, when you put revenue projections in your budget, it's just projection, just as the name implies, it's about 10 trillion. And we also understand that 10 trillion naira. And we also understand that lots of these as well is also going to service debt. But the same government, they have told us that they are going to save massive amount of money when subsidy is being removed. So part of this money should also go to take care of Nigerians, most especially the vulnerables. That's one. Then secondly as well, you know, yesterday there was a FAC meeting where they also shared over 700 billion naira. So we are expecting that with the removal of subsidy, that the money they do share, in fact, at the end of the month, is going to increase much more than that, maybe 2 trillion of naira. And again, more importantly, you know, before now, CBN exchange rate was fixed at about 450 to 460 naira per USD. But today, they have floated it. And it's around 760 naira per USD. If you look at that increment, that will also bring about additional almost about 40–50%, or if not more, into the coffers of government. Because most of the things that do, like this crude oil we talk about, is being sold in USD. So when they are repatriating the money before now, the exchange rate was around 460 naira to $1. But today, when they are repatriating it, it's going to be somewhere around 700 naira plus to $1. That means that there will be much more naira available to government. So more importantly is that as government, we must be creative. As government, they must be innovative. They must put on, like as I have said in most of the fora, is that you must put on your thinking cap. You must be able to grow the revenue of the country. It is not, if you employ me and you ask me to work, my function is to deliver on my objective. My function is to deliver on my KPIs. It is your function as the management of the company or as a government that have employed me to also think on how to make life better for the employees. So government must put on the thinking cap. We believe strongly from the labor movement that if government first cut down wastages, that is why in our demand we added that the cost of governance must be reduced. And a committee, technical committee on that, is also part of these 5 committees that we are looking at. So if the cost of governance is reduced, they will be able to save some money from that. And if they do all these other things that we have said, we believe that funds will be available. Because again, Nigeria is not a country where we'll be having 10 trillion naira projection as revenue. By the time you convert that into USD, it is abysmal. But we strongly believe that a government that is innovative, a government that is creative, and they have promised us. They told us that during their campaign, they said they want to do X, Y, Z, which they said they are doing now. But they also told us during their campaigns that they want to increase the revenue of the country, that they want to make the country prosper, and they want to make the country grow. So we will hold them to that as well. So it's their responsibility to think through and make it work.
Indeed, Mr. Sifo, that's what Nigerians want, results. And, you know, it's an administration that sells renewed hope. But for me, I'm curious about the concerned, more importantly, about the length of time of these negotiations. If I'm correct, it's entered its third week, and you have also said yourself on the program that government has not come back to you on your demand for 200,000 naira minimum wage for workers, you know, and add to that the many committees that have been set up. Also, one of your key charters in your list of demands was that, you know, return to status quo, you know, while we continue the negotiations. But government has not adhered to that as well. So it will seem as if you're losing grip on this negotiation, Mr. Sifo, along with your other affiliate unions.
I know when we were entering into these conversations and negotiations, we did not. We also know, because, I mean, we have been union leaders for quite some time. So we also understand as well that these are not just issues that you resolve in one day or in 1 week. So we had that at the back of our mind. But when you submit demand, you also need to squeeze them as well. You will not just submit, because any demand that you submit, as far as that demand is coming from you, you cannot get everything there 100%. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. So as unionists, we understand the negotiation processes. We know as well our minimum fallback point. So when we know our minimum fallback point, we now also need to have some markup in order to give room for negotiations. Because if you think that you will go with your demand and you get your demand 100%, then that will not follow the principles of negotiations. So that is why when we submit demand, there are rooms. We also put some level of flexibility, but within us, we know our minimum set point. But we will put some level of flexibility in it for us to be able to have some level of conversation. So for us, we know from the beginning, I mean, it was very clear to us that these are turning issues. We are talking about probably reduction of cost of governance. We are talking about some level of infrastructures that must be deployed. We are talking about CNG. These are not things that we will just sit down and have a conversation one day. That was why we accused the government from the beginning that these conversations ought to have been concluded, because they were the ones that shied away as at then when we were having the conversations. But that if they were sincere and they sat with us, we would have resolved all these issues before now. So that was why we said to them that this announcement they did was actually done in bad faith. But they also said that this government is different, that this is a new government and a new dispensation. So for us,
Mr. Sifo, if government...
So for us,
okay. Pardon me if I may come in there. If government has not come back to you on your demand for a minimum wage increase of about 200,000 naira, what then is on that list of you know, low-hanging fruits, according to the Special Advisor on Communications and Strategy, that you are guaranteeing Nigerians that you're returning to them with in 2 weeks' time, that will reduce the pains that they're currently bearing?
Yeah, if you heard what we said earlier, that we are setting up technical committees across these various areas. You know, when even minimum wage discussion is not just between the labor and government. There is a law of a land that says that when you are discussing minimum wage, is a tripartite thing. So it's labor, government, and the private sector, and the employers represented by NECA. The NECA is an umbrella body of most of the private employers in Nigeria. So we are the ones that will sit down and have that conversation. So on the part of government on their own, that's why we are now looking at the issue of wage award. When compared to the minimum wage conversation. But like as I have said, all these issues, we would start dwelling on them and discussing the details effectively from Monday next week. Like as I told you, we were not just expecting government on their own to just come and tick, okay, pam, 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 like that. In most cases, it does not really work during negotiations. But we strongly believe that with this technical committee that we are bringing...
I'm not very sure you significantly answered Bukola's question about exactly what the low-hanging fruits are, but you give me a minute or two, we'll get back to you. Emmanuel Odafe-Igbene has also joined us in this conversation. He's National President, Vanguard for Transparent Leadership and Democracy. He joins us virtually from Warri. Thank you for joining us this morning, Mr. Igbene. Well, a number of things, of course, I'm pretty sure you've been listening to Mr. Osifo, have this conversation with us. Generally, between the federal government and Labour, what's your assessment of the progression so far? Do you think they are making life-changing, sustainable progress, or you think we're just rigmaroling around the same issues?
Thank you very much, my brother Ayo. Your last sentence is what I agree with. We are just turning around like Baba Chair. With due respect, let me properly introduce myself so that my brother there will know who is on this other side. I am a petroleum engineer, mechanical engineer, an electrical electronics engineer, and I worked in one of the leading multinational oil companies. I'm talking about Total Energy. So I've worked in all the fields, onshore, offshore, swamp location, and even the production statistics department. And I was a labor leader from 1991 up until 1999. So, with due respect to him, and I've listened to my colleagues in the union, I feel very, very sad. I think this country belongs to all of us, and we must tell ourselves the whole truth. I don't agree with what they are saying. It's okay, I'm happy he's a mechanical engineer too. He's talking about CNG. Now, Jobali asked a very critical question. So, are we going to rely on Forex again, for exchange rate, to determine the price of the CNG that they are all hinging their hope on? Hello. How did they start talking about what led to this discussion about CNG in the first place? It's because of these same challenges. The allegation that people were vandalizing the pipeline scarcity, and so government then, many years ago, said, okay, let's think of an alternative. CNG, LPG, LNG, they all come from the same reservoir. Let's not deceive ourselves. So with due respect, I have stated over and over, I didn't start discussing this issue. In fact, as far back as the year 2000, I granted an interview where I said I can no longer keep quiet. There's massive corruption and crude oil theft in the oil industry, and that cost me my job. The Pengasan and Nupen guys, they colluded and they sent me back. What I'm trying to say here is that, yes. Hello, my brother. Yes. Let me go. There's no time, like I agree with my brother. This issue is not what we are going to discuss in just a minute. I will appeal to Channel Steve if you can organize whatever you will call it. What do you call it? For presidential.
Just a quick one, because I mean, you've said that as far as you're concerned, we're going about it the wrong way. What would be the better way, in your opinion? Because clearly, subsidy is outdated. Everyone agrees on that, unless you don't. So, but the effect of the removal is no doubt biting everyone in the country, including those who are comfortable themselves. Their budgets monthly budgets have increased significantly. So what then would you say should have been the better way to approach this issue in the interest of everyone?
Thank you very much. First of all, there's nothing like subsidy. Subsidy never existed anytime. Quote me. Subsidy never existed. What has been existing is just some few set of unpatriotic, privileged Nigerians who kept on stealing and looting our common wealth. And they came with the cover that there's subsidy. You don't remove what never existed. I still insist. I issued a press statement some few days ago, and I maintain it. Secondly, let me tell my brother, and he knows, that the refineries, my house is just very close to Warri refinery here. The Warri refinery never had any problem. Most of these refineries don't even have problem. People decided to direct that this refinery should be shut down before the directive came so that they can continue with all this their massive unpatriotic looting. It was the same Nigerians in the refineries who were running and maintaining the refinery. Let me challenge my brother Osifu. Thank God you are from the oil industry. I will not bother about my brother Ajay. Look, quote me. Our colleagues, call them, call your members, ask them to go and start a refinery. They will start it. We can't continue like this for crying out loud. And that is why I've been warning this country for so many years, that unless we have a president must be the Minister of Petroleum Resources. I advised former President Buhari. That was why he accepted to be the Minister of Petroleum Resources, because we are toiling with the national security of this country. We are just joking. Secondly, this thing you call PIA, I started attacking it. That is the worst single legislator that we can give to ourselves. You don't open up your country to all manner of people to come in like it's not done anywhere, not even in America. This is a very strategic resource. You open up, there are people now who are so rich, they can easily meet and then
wind down on this one. So, comrade, you clearly disagree.
Yes. You know, he said he was a Labour leader, and coincidentally, he said he worked for Total Energies. I also work for Total Energies, and I think we have a lot of things in similar. He's a petroleum engineer. I'm a petroleum engineer. He's a mechanical engineer. I'm also a mechanical engineer. He said he left the industry in the 90s. I think I beg to disagree that we are not, we have some level of understanding of the petroleum economics. For us to say that there is no subsidy, that subsidy is not there, it is not correct. Yeah, maybe on a particular day, maybe we could have time to interrogate that very well. Because it is not true for us to say subsidy does not exist. It is not also correct to say that let's just tell our members in the refinery to go and switch it on today and it will come on to start working. It is not also correct. Yes, when it was put off, there could be one or two issues and reasons as are then. But to say that don't go and tell them to switch it on, the refinery will come on as it is today, it is not also right. Yes, I understand your pains as well. You said you were let off your work and all that, but let's leave that. Maybe after now we could have some interaction and conversations around that. But coming strictly on the issues, like what you said earlier about the exchange rate and all that. Yes, you know, I've been on several programs where I've talked about the real devil in it. The real problem we are having in Nigeria, most especially from 2016 till now, is actually the issue of exchange rate. That is the reason we are facing the hardship we are currently experiencing as a people in this country. If you look at between 1999 and 2015, for about 16 years, our exchange rate did not depreciate more than 100%. But between 2016 and now, look at the way it has moved. And we don't also have control over it. The fact that government said they want to float the exchange rate today, we are a bit skeptical. You don't allow your exchange rate to be dictated 100% by the vagaries of the market. Even in America, they don't allow it 100%. In fact, America accuses China, Japan every now and then for stage managing their exchange rate. So there must be a guided float, because you could have speculators that will push this exchange rate to something around 1,000 naira or to $1 or even more. And when that happens, everything is going to move, because in Nigeria, we are more, as of today, we are much more import dependent. And because we are much more import dependent, a lot of these are subjected to our foreign exchange. So this, I agree with him, that exchange rate is one of the issues that we must look at and we must find a way to manage. Is
it comforting for you in any way that the CBN has said that they will intervene as buyers and sellers, depending on how the market is going, that they will buy when they need to and they will sell when they need to ensure that there's some, fairness, and to also prevent against what it is that you're afraid of, speculators making the price go above a certain threshold.
This is what is done in other clients. Mm-hmm. They do it in China, they do it even in Germany, they do it everywhere, in order not to allow speculators come into the market. But we said CBN should come in now, not for them to wait till the exchange rate plummets to about 1,000 naira to $1 before they will now decide to come in. They have to start that intervention almost immediately, because everything or most things in Nigeria are dependent on it. Even the food we eat, because the fertilizers, most of them we import. Even the ones that Dangote is currently producing, he also looks at the exchange rate in order to fix the price of the fertilizer he sells to Nigeria. So we must look at that area very well.
All right, gentlemen, we need to go at this point. At least you both agree on something, even though you also largely disagree on several others, which we will focus on much later. We have to thank you for coming on, Comrade Festus Osifo, President of Pangasen and the TUC, as well as Emmanuel Igbeni, who is a National President, Vanguard for Transparent Leadership and Democracy. So